If you want it, you got to be willing to do the work.
Welcome to Working Women Mentor, a podcast where you will find a mentor moment in every episode. We are meeting incredible women from around the world with real stories and learning from the moment that changed it all for them. I'm your host, Rani Alfers, and I'm ready to introduce you to our next guest. Hey everyone, welcome back to Working Women Mentor. I'm your host, Rani Alfers, and in today's episode, we are chatting with Meghan Buchanan. She is an aerospace engineer, adventure athlete, and motivational speaker. She is just so lovely to chat with. I could have talked with her for days, just listen to what she has to say. She's here today to talk with us about what it takes to achieve what you want, no matter what. Her incredible story, of which I'm not going to spoil for you, starts at a really young age. At age 7, she was diagnosed with dyslexia and had to really overcome the stereotypes, the discrimination, what she went through then to achieve being an aerospace engineer. But her family life, the way she grew up, and how she's taking all of this and so determined to be and do what she wants to do. She reminds us that we have within us grit, but she's got an entirely different way of defining it. And I'll let her share that story with us. But this tragedy that she had later in life, it's something that most of us won't ever experience, but she did. It was life threatening. She used those same tools. So she's here today with this information, the secrets, the guidance that took her through absolutely every obstacle in her life and continues to take her up mountains and everything she's working on. She's sharing with us today on this episode. So it is packed full of mentorship and really going to leave you thinking so differently about what you have inside of you. So here we go. Let's meet Meghan Buchanan. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Working Women Mentor. Rani Alfers, your host, and I'm so excited for you to meet Meghan Buchanan. She's here with us live today before a big climb. So, Meghan, how are you? Welcome.
I'm great. I am doing well. I am highly caffeinated on some cold brew, and so accomplishing all the things today.
I love it. I love it. I start with warm and then I go to cold later in the day. I understand completely. For those of you listening, Meghan, would you give us just a brief introduction of yourself and who you are? We'd love to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me. My name is Meghan Buchanan. I am an aerospace engineer, an adventure athlete, and a keynote speaker. And people are like, how did you become those things? And I like to say, I'm a middle kid with a learning disability, always trying to achieve all the things to prove myself to others and prove myself to myself. And then through that journey, have just realized actually how to just accept myself for exactly who I am through grit.
I love it. That's probably one of the most vulnerable introductions I've ever heard. And you're like, there's no secret. It's why I am like I am. We also ask you to text a friend and ask how they would introduce you, what they have to say about you. Did they reply to you?
I sent it out to about 6 different people. They all replied.
Oh,
And I sent, yeah, I know. And it's so funny. And my sister being one of those who not only is my sister, but she is my best friend because I knew I'd get definitely the good and the bad with her. It's so fun to do that kind of thing when you're like, I don't know that I deserve these wonderful answers. And my one friend, Lisa, wrote me just something beautiful that I was like, I want that on my tombstone one day. But no, it was lovely. And it's just things like adventurous, fearless, driven, doesn't take no for an answer. And my sister, though, my sister called me a whirlwind of life that you never knew you wanted or appreciated. Yeah. So I am always like trying to take on all these things and move forward. And I just don't stop, but I love it.
I had to stop and think about that one for a second because I'm like, I know that's a compliment, but I love that it's coming from your sister. She knows you so well. These texts, these statements are so fun to read. Who would ever send their friend a text and go, hey, what do you think about me? Okay, we were introduced through a guest, Jen Drummond, on our season 4. If anyone hasn't heard that episode yet, please go back and listen. She had nothing but amazing things to say about you. And
Oh
so
my
she
gosh.
is who connected us. And I have to be very thankful for that because I know in the community that you guys are in, that means a lot. So a lot of people are saying wonderful things about you, Megan.
Oh, that's lovely. And she is absolutely such a rock star. We literally met, I think, between camp 1 and 2 on Everest in 2021. And then we ran into each other in Antarctica. And, it is a small community. And I will say there's so many fabulous people, but especially the women. I think in the outdoor and the mountaineering community, the women are so supportive of each other, which is really lovely. Because a lot of times in industry, you will have women who subscribe to this whole thing of we don't get along, which is a bunch of BS someone told us a long time ago. And that's sad. And I try to change that narrative, but especially in mountaineering, the women are just really trying to support each other to help us rise even further. So she's absolutely an amazing, good human being.
I like that insight because not many of us know what it's like in that community. So to hear how strong it is, it's really, really insightful. So thank you for that. And so we talked about grit when you started. You introduced yourself, you used the words grit. And
Yes.
I want to know more about that because you've got a really deep connection to that word, to the meaning of it. You built a life around it. But you had some struggles, and dyslexia was one of them. So take us back to that journey and what that's meant to you, how you've moved past it, how it's defined you.
Yeah. Going through, I've had a lot of challenges and different things, as we all have. And it wasn't until I really identified my idea of what grit is and trying to figure out where did that originate from. I didn't realize it actually originated from being a little kid with a learning difference. And I didn't realize how impactful it was until I started going down my own journey of how did I become this driven force. So I grew up in a really amazing family, also very cerebral, very smart family. My father was a Rhodes Scholar to MIT. And I started reading when I was actually 3, but about second grade is where you start spelling. And I started having major issues. I had a teacher who was not a very good man, and he verbally and emotionally was abusing me in front of the class. Yeah, he was not a good guy, and so badly that I refused to read. And my mom was like, "What the heck is happening?" Took me to specialists. And at that time, not a lot was known too much about a lot of learning differences, but they said, "Miss Buchanan, we're so sorry. Your child has dyslexia. She will not achieve much academically." And I know the look in my mother's eye as an adult, that look was probably some curse words in there. But she sat me down and she said, "Sweetheart, you can be anything you want to be. You are just going to have to work harder than everyone else. And that starts today in this house." So my mom normalized it in my home. I didn't get an excuse by any means. I just had to work harder. And my family helped me. And my brother and my sister were amazing. They weren't affected. We would have fun with it. They weren't allowed to make fun of me, but we could laugh together about it. And then really, I found my release in the outdoors. My father loved hiking. It was something I got to do with him. I probably climbed my first 14er, which in Colorado is any peak over 14,000 feet. We've got 58 of them. So I would do that. I felt I was naturally good at it. So it was the counterbalance to the learning difficulties that I built my confidence in the outdoors. My parents are like, "Look how hard you try at that. Let's apply that to school." And I just remain very dedicated. I failed a lot in college. I think I went on an academic probation, but eventually I did crawl over the finish line with a degree in aerospace engineering.
That's not an easy thing, right? Let's not even underestimate that. That's impressive. I mean, really
Thank
impressive.
you.
Congratulations. Mhm.
It was a lot. And honestly, I think a lot of it was, I think I refused to give up on it just because I had that learning disability and I didn't want to fail. Little did I know that I actually would be very good at my jobs, which is great. But so that kind of went on. The being a female in engineering. And then I actually had a horrendous snowboarding accident in Vail in my 30s and annihilated my femur. I actually almost died, almost bled out. I was told I'd have a cane or a wheelchair the rest of my life and high on morphine in the hospital. I remember thinking, nope, just another challenge.
Megan, do you hear that teacher's voice in your head ever? Are there just these moments where it's like this abusive, awful, like little critic, if you will, is telling you, like, yeah, you're not going to be anything? Does he ever come back?
I know that is such a good question. And off the top of my head, I'd say no, but It always does. We all, as children, have had things that impact us, and those voices are now our internal voices. Do I constantly have negative voices in my head? Yeah, 100%. But you get really good, and that goes back to this grit. So this grit is two G's, and it's gratitude, growth, resilience, integrity, and tenacity. And I realize that is what I've used my entire life to overcome any challenge, to combat those negative voices, and then to achieve any goals that I set forward. I always go back to that cycle of grit over and over, and you get better and better. So that teacher, it's so funny diving back into my own past of how this happened. I was like, oh yeah, I was emotionally and mentally abused by a teacher and thinking that's just what happens. And I was like, wait a minute. Actually, that was a bit traumatic. Of course, those voices, his voice turned into those negative voices in mine. And like I said, we all have those. And even though I can say, yeah, I'm an aerospace engineer. Yeah, I've climbed Mount Everest, but I have those voices every day. But I've just gotten very good at believing in myself and shutting those voices down right away and answering them back. When you say to yourself, you're an idiot, you can't do this, I will answer back, I might not be able to, but we're going to try it.
We're gonna try it anyway. So it's
Yes.
learning how to communicate with that voice. Then it's like
Yeah.
learning how to speak to each other. Okay, but grit, you make it sound very simple. You make it sound like, oh, hey, like this is how I've made it through this. This is
Yeah.
why. But it's also a program, a way of life for you that you're mentoring and helping other women with. So will you walk us through those steps in a little bit more detail, if you don't mind?
Absolutely, because it's never easy, right? It's never, and it is a way of life that you have to choose to practice every day. And the biggest thing that I tell people as well is you have to do the work. And it is a little exhausting to think, oh my gosh, my entire life, I will be having to go through this cycle to get through things. But that is the answer. This life is constantly going to throw you obstacle, pain, struggle, disappointment. That is life. So either wake up and start dealing with it or let it tear you down. So it all starts with the foundation of gratitude. And what I've learned is we all have different levels of what we think problems are or challenges are. One person's challenge could seem like a dream world to another person. No matter what, no matter how it feels to you, if you can find one thing, hold on to one thing you're grateful for in the most dire of times, that helps like keep that little ember burning to start building your positivity back up. So if you can even just today be like, I'm so glad that I woke up and it's not raining today, or I'm so glad for my dog's little kiss, or I'm so glad that I have this one person I can count on, whatever it is, you've got to focus on what you're grateful for. And then the opportunities or the challenges that come your way, be grateful for that opportunity to become better and change. So you set your foundation with gratitude, your base camp. The next
Okay.
thing is growth. And growth is the really hard part. That is the part that you have to be willing to endure, be vulnerable, be willing to learn new things, maybe really suck at something and be horrible and keep going back at it every day and slowly get better, maybe not get better. But learning that maybe you don't have all the answers, be open to things, vulnerable. The growth is the really hard part that hurt.
It's the
And
work.
so
It's really
it's
the
the
work in there.
it's
Yeah.
the work.
Mhm.
I know. And I just think, and that's where most people give up. Most people give up right in the beginning at that growth. I'll never be good at this. Or they're frustrated at themselves. Or especially as an adult trying to learn something new, what will people think? I'm embarrassed. What having to start over
Yeah.
again, maybe
Too
going
old
to
for
school.
this.
Yeah. Too old for
Yeah.
this.
Too old for this.
But
Mhm.
if you want it, you got to be willing to do the work. So then that rolls into the resilience. The resilience is the ability to get through that work and to
Mhm.
get back up, to choose to get back up and rise over and over again until you get there. And the resilience to realize I've been working at something for 2 years. This just isn't what I want anymore, or this isn't the right path. I got to start again. So getting through that, integrity is in there to me because it's something I grew up with. I think the world's a little crazy right now. To me, integrity does matter. Your word matters. It means speaking up for yourself. It means speaking up for others when it might not be the popular thing, it's never the easy thing. It's about owning your actions and owning your situation. And that is a huge thing in grit, is being able to take responsibility and accountability for where you're at and what's happening. Even if you didn't choose it, you've got to start owning it.
And even if you don't like it, and even if you're ashamed of it, you still have to own it to be able to keep going. Yeah.
Because we love that phrase, the quickest way to get somewhere is straight through. And you can be making excuses, you can be blaming things, but you aren't going to get to where you want to be. And so it's about really being real with yourself. And when you learn to be real with yourself, then you can be real with others. So integrity is super, super important to me. And it's about doing the work and doing it the right way. And then tenacity is the thing that pulls all of that through. And to go through that grit cycle over and over again, you've got to have that tenacity and that fire in your belly and be able to regenerate that positive drive to keep moving forward and level up and get to where you want to be. And I'll tell you, there's nothing more inspiring. And even when I go and talk to groups or people, if someone comes and talk to me and they're just like either tears in their eye or just that passion, that tenacity, they inspire me right back. And so that tenacity is how you keep going through that grit cycle through your life, and you get better and better at it the more you practice. To this point in my life, anytime when a challenge or an obstacle is thrown in my way, because it constantly is, now I'm just like, well, heck, all right, let's just deal with it. Here we go. I know I can't hide from it. I know I can't get around it. Let's just go straight through. Let's get it done. Let's use our principles of grit and move on.
It's also very calming when you understand that, all right, let's just deal with it. I always think, what is the worst case scenario? I really always look at that. And then I'm working backwards. And I think what's so important and so helpful about your GGRIT model is that it is relatable, because we all have at every time at least one of those qualities. If you don't have them all happening and working for you at the same time, you've got at least one. It's that one that'll start threading the others together and get you through what you're going through.
It's time for a quick sponsored ad from EMK Skincare. It's my skincare secret I swear by and love it so much, I bought the company. EMK was founded over 30 years ago in Beverly Hills and is crafted from science-backed research of human placenta and the bioidentical properties to placenta found in nature. High-potency, plant-powered formulas with clinically proven ingredients. Anti-aging is just not realistic, but healthy aging skin is. And it's why this brand is loved by dermatologists, plastic surgeons, estheticians for its healing ingredients and reduced downtime after procedures. It's my secret to glowing skin, even on my busiest days, my travel days, and my longest work days. Visit emkskincare.com to sign up for emails and receive 15% off your first purchase.
Now back to the episode. I'm curious, you mentioned earlier you're athletic climber, you're adventure climber, you're setting records, but you had a near-death accident. So how did you go from there to where you are right now?
Yeah, exactly. And I was just talking to a friend this morning with coffee. He's going through a really hard time right now. And his whole world was just ripped out from under him. And so I actually used my accident as the analogy. So it was actually a Super Bowl Sunday, amazing powder day, just out with my friends. And we were ripping it up in the back bowls of Vail. And I think literally 10 minutes before my accident happened, I was like, this life is so amazing. And this powder. And I was behind a girlfriend who's ex-US ski team. So we were going very fast. I was on my snowboard and we went through the trees and I hit a downed log at about 25 miles an hour. So pretty much my femur bone, I had decapitated it and spiral fractured down and all the muscles ripped off. And then they couldn't find me back in the back bowls. It was by the time the ski patrol had gotten there, I had already broken a molar from my teeth chattering. I'd stuck a glove in my mouth and it was emergency rescue and surgery. I woke up to a 14-inch titanium rod down the center of my femur bone and pretty much saying you're lucky to be alive and you will probably have a wheelchair or a cane the rest of your life. And you've had the worst break in the human body. And I was like, oh, and that's what I was saying on morphine. I'm like, nope, not going to be my life. Let's start the work. And so it was intense physical therapy. I lived in Denver. I ended up moving up to Vail. I actually couldn't even go back down to Denver for quite some time. Leave of absence from work and just nonstop, horrendous pain. Like 24/7, it felt like the muscles wanted to rip off my bone. Never a moment of relief. And a year of physical therapy. At this point, I had to quit my job. I dedicated all my time to trying to get my leg back. Relationships ended, issues, depression set in. But every day I would show up at physical therapy like, all right, guys, let's do this. And that's when I figured out this whole thing of grit. My PT stuck with me and we kept troubleshooting. And I'd go to other experts. Vail Valley has world-renowned surgeons, and they would say to me, this is your life, Megan. You need to just deal with it. I'd be like, thank you for your opinion. No, it's not. After a year and a half, I could not walk upstairs without my cane and a railing, and I still was in extreme pain. And my PT was like, I think you're allergic to the titanium. And there was no way to test for it at the time. And so we told my surgeon, he's like, interesting. So we started I had to start going through all these injections, all these different things to rule everything out. All the other doctors are like, this is not going to help you. My doctor was like, and I was like, get this rod out of my body. My surgeon, so supportive. He did it. That night, I swear to God, I felt better. Within 1 month, I could walk upstairs unassisted. And this whole time, in a year and a half of giving up everything, just focus on getting my leg back, all I could think about was, I want to go hike to Everest Base Camp again. That was like my carrot because I had done it before. I'm like, I want to go. I want to go do this. So they took it out. Within 6 months, I went to Everest Base Camp and back. And for me, I was so much stronger mentally and emotionally because of all the pain I had just been through. I was like, I want to go climb Kilimanjaro again. And so I did that. And I literally ran across the top at 19,000 feet to get there for a sunrise. And my friends were like, you ran. I was like, yeah. They're like, that's not normal. So then I was like, I want to do Aconcagua, which is South America, highest peak, 23,000 feet. And when that was easy, that's when I figured out I was so strong mentally that now the physicality seemed like just what you do. And at that point, I decided I'm going to start training and get the skills, do the work, learn climbing, learn crevasse rescue, learn avalanche safety, start really doing the work. And I'm going to go for big mountains and do the 7 summits. And that was the day that I really figured it out. And it was like you had that question for me, how do friends describe you? I had actually been working on a project. It was a similar thing. They're like, ask your friends how they describe you. And everyone kept saying grit. That's where it came about.
The Grand Slam. So you're trying to set a record. Explain to us what the Grand Slam is.
So there's a couple versions of the Grand Slam. And so there's the Explorers Grand Slam and Adventurers Grand Slam. And the Explorers is what I'm about to achieve. So that is the 7 summits, heights, peak on every continent. And then the last degree ski to the North and South Pole. Last degree, meaning latitude, of dropping you off at 89 degrees. You got to go the 60 nautical miles to the 90 degrees north and south. So it takes about 7 to 10 days. It is extreme conditions. Oh my gosh. But I did the South Pole already, and then I'm waiting to do the North Pole. The Explorers Grand Slam, 12 women have done it, 4 U.S. women. So I'll be the 5th U.S. woman. The Adventurers Grand Slam is doing North and South Pole from a coastline, which is going to be on either Arctic or Antarctic, about 450, 500 miles. Antarctica, I will definitely be able to do that one. Arctic is right now, they don't have the logistics to do the Adventurers anymore because the sea ice is so fragile and so rapidly disappearing. If I am able to get that done, I'll be the first U.S. woman and like the 2nd or 3rd woman ever to do that.
Congratulations. It sounds amazing. And I'm excited for you. I can't wait to track this journey and watch your grit in action. So when you say they haven't had an expedition since 2018, who is they? Like, who is leading you on something like this?
Yeah, really great question too, because usually for that sort of thing, there are temporary camps set up for the season. So for the North Pole, it's called Borneo Camp, and it's set up on the ice. So it's just during this spring season. So it is people from around the world trying to do it. It's still a very small group. You've got about 3 to 4 weeks in there that you can get everything done. So I am with an amazing world-renowned polar explorer, Eric Larson. He's in here in Colorado too. So we'll have a team of probably 8 of us that are trying to do this. The last time he did an expedition with people he took was 2018. Then it was canceled, I think, for environmental issues. Then this little thing called COVID. And last year we were set to go, but because of geopolitical issues, we weren't able to go. The only 2 places you can really base out of that have a civil airport to be able to refuel these little planes to drop is Longyearbyen, Norway, and Murmansk, I never say it correctly, Russia. Closed down last year for us. Russia, is that really an option? I don't think that's an option. So
I don't think so either.
anyway,
I wouldn't count on it. That's for sure. I wouldn't count
so
on it.
anyway, they've been working. So the main logistics of Borneo camp is owned by a Swedish billionaire. And so he's trying to get us all there. And this might be everyone's last shot at this just because of the Arctic melting. We don't know. So it's just so fragile. So just trying to get there while we can. And, these expeditions are extremely time consuming and expensive. And all my money goes into these things and trying to find sponsorship. Yeah.
Sponsors, money, keynote speaker. I mean, you are out talking about this. And so let's talk a little bit about mentorship. Speaking of working and making a little bit of money to keep all of this going, right? So what has mentorship been like for you in your life? The influences you've had, is there one person that stands out to you, or one message that you wanted to share based on your mentor moment that they enlightened you with?
Yeah. And I love this because engineering and mountaineering both have predominantly been male dominated. I wasn't able to have a lot of female mentors, which is such a shame. And I think that's one reason why it's been so important to me to really specifically reach out to females to help inspire them. But I will say, I had some pretty amazing male feminist mentors through my life. One, honestly, being my father. My father, brilliant engineer, he was the one is, you can do this. And I remember as a little girl in 6th grade, I actually saw the shuttle explode. And that was the day he explained to me how I could be an aerospace engineer and design better spacecraft. And I remember I said to him something like, yeah, but I don't want to look like a boy. And he was like, that is ridiculous. He took me out of school. I went to work with him and he had me spend the day with this beautiful engineer. And she's brilliant, beautiful on the inside and out. And he's like, will you please explain to my daughter that she can be anything she wants to be. She can look however she wants to look. She can be as smart as she wants to be, but you can just be who you are. And that was a moment where I was like, wow, okay. And then my mom on the other side of it too, she is so strong. And what I realized with her is even though she let me idolize my father, not that she wouldn't, but I know she watched that. And the little seeds that my mom planted in me all through my life, as I was probably 35 and older, I still have these moments I wake up and I'm like, that's what you meant, Mom. I get it. And she's like, yep. Like that woman's brilliant. The seed she planted in me to, as an adult, to truly come into my full potential. She had set that up for me as a young kid to blossom as an adult.
I think that's so beautiful. That's why I love the moment. These small things she said, and sometimes you don't even realize it. You could meet someone today and you're like, oh, okay. But just when you need it the most is, I feel like, when you recall that moment. So what a special bond between you, your mom, your dad, and the impact it had on you. How are you taking those lessons and that upbringing, that passion, that grit, and helping others as a mentor, Meghan?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I have to tell you, and any talk I do, I speak, I tear up every time I talk to my dad, because my dad passed away when I was 33, lost like my best friend. And I tear up with like joy because, man, I was the lucky one. I was the lucky one getting both my parents. And so my mentorship for others is for me to be able to replicate what they did for me for others. And so especially when you talk about neurodivergence, it's so important for me to talk to kids, young adults, mentoring them in finding the beauty in their neurodivergence, finding the love for themselves and understanding the strength they have now versus when they're older, to be proud of who they are now, because my parents were a voice of strength for me while teaching me to be a strength for myself and then finally letting me go. And I remember like in college, my mom, when I was younger, would fight my battles, but then she taught me how to. And then I remember the day in college where I called her crying about something and she's, what are you going to do about it? Could you please call? She's, no, I'm not going to call them. You need to call them. And like she teaching me to be my own advocate, going back and mentoring people who are neurodivergent, extremely important. And then also then in engineering and women, teaching them to have a voice, teaching them to know their worth, not just know their worth, but live their worth, because that's another step of not just knowing it, but living it and
Very different.
courage to do that. And that is exactly my mission is to teach these amazing lessons I learned because they work. I am proof that it works and help others find that in themselves.
You are most certainly proof. You are absolutely proof in the making, and I don't think it's over with. So your impact is impressive. I'm curious how you squeeze all of this in. How in the world are you working by day as an aerospace engineer? You're climbing, you're exercising, you're doing, I'm sure, every extreme sport we don't even know about. Where do you find all the time? How do you make this happen, Megan?
I have a ridiculous amount of energy, and anyone who's like dyslexic and ADD, they're going to be like, preach, girl, we know. So this is actually a great way for me I think of myself as like a Labrador puppy. This is a great way for me to actually burn off all
Good.
But it's not easy. And it's so funny. The company I work for, they asked me a couple times, will you come and talk to people about how to manage work-life balance? I don't know anyone that actually like successfully or easily manages it. It's hard and it's making choices. It is understanding that there are 24 hours in the day. You need to sleep, you need to eat, but it is choices in things. I used to work like 60-hour weeks, 10, 15 years, because I thought, if I do this, then I'll deserve to go take a month off to do a climb. But then, especially COVID affected all of us a lot. And I also realized I was burning myself out. And I had to make choices at work to pull back on my hours because I can't do it all. And so it is choices. My career in work life might not go as fast to where I wanted it to go originally because I'm now balancing that more. I'm taking more time to be able to study. I'm trying to keep it around a 45-hour work week, but that comes with consequences career-wise. And what is different things? I don't have kids. I don't have a husband. So a lot of my time gets to go into that. I don't date a lot right now because I'm on a mission to get these things done. And I know that I have to spend my time building grit, trying to write a book, training, but these are the choices that I'm making.
Yeah, and that's just the point. You can make a different choice, right? It's like you have the ability to shift that direction and that focus, but I can just feel your passion for what you're doing. How exciting for you to go out and be accomplishing your goals and your dreams. Megan, what is the mentor moment you'd like to leave our audience with? It's going to be that moment that they listen back and look back and think, gosh, I heard it from Megan. This is who I got this little tidbit from.
Yeah, it is what I talk about all the time. Start now building your grit, building your gratitude, growth, resilience, integrity, and tenacity, and make it a daily practice. And through that, it's going to build your confidence. It's going to lead you to reaching your full potential. And the things that you think are your goal, as you go through this journey, you might realize that's not your goal, but you've got a greater goal, one that more is authentically you, and be open to that journey, learning truly who you are and taking ownership and being proud of that. And I believe this so much. And I live this every single day. You have a choice. Grit is a choice. So choose to rise.
Where can we find you, follow you, just sponsor you, track your journey around the world?
Yes. So everything is pretty much GGRIT. So that is my website. That is on Instagram. I've got links to GoFundMe's. You can reach out to me for a sponsorship package or to have me come and speak at your company, your event, your school. Especially to what means so much to me is when I have even a parent write me and just said, hey, I do have heard that that would be like my 8-year-old kid is watching you who has dyslexia And they said to me the other day, Mom, I want to be an engineer. And that it makes it so worthwhile for everyone. And it's not just kids, it's adults. There's so many people I come across now that were never diagnosed and they're struggling with that inner pain. And it's time to embrace who you are. It means so much. So reach out to me, have your kids ask questions. I'll always answer back. And it's just a really amazing journey we can all be on together.
You have me tearing up. We're going to cry this one out, Meghan. Thanks for being here with us.
Before you go, a huge thank you for being a part of this episode. I hope it left you with a spark of inspiration. And if you haven't already, hit that follow button and subscribe button to stay connected. Now is a great time. Your reviews are the heartbeat of our podcast. So if you enjoyed what you heard today, a review would really mean the world to us. Let's keep this conversation going as well on Instagram at Rani Alfers. Visit us at ranialfers.com for all episode show notes and also to express your interest to be a guest. Please sign up. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, I'll see you back on Working Women Mentor.